Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a video and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Today, it is my privilege to welcome an exceptional mind who has done all kinds of amazing things, Mr. J. Ramanand, to the show. Ramanand, welcome to the show.
Ashutosh, thank you so much. Delighted to be here.
Thank you. Ramanand is the co-founder of Choose to Think spelt with a Q, and he helps individuals to deliberate their future relevance. He has worked on applied research in the field of natural language processing. He's a master's in computer science from IIT Bombay, and very interestingly, he's the youngest winner of BBC's Mastermind India quiz. Wow, that is quite amazing. So Ramanand, tell me, what would you say are three key milestones of your career or your life?
So when you asked me that question, it made me pause because one doesn't really get a chance to reflect back. And so three things that come to mind. The first one was my first ever promotion, however mundane that might sound. And the reason it came to mind was because it was for something that when I started doing that assigned piece of work, I didn't want to do it. I didn't think this is what they had hired me to do. So it was one of those periods where I was thrown in a bit of confusion as to, is this what, I should be doing? But I think what happened was it was one of those opportunities that, came my way that I delivered. And there was the stamp of approval from the powers that be. And it was an early promotion. This was I was a fresher and this happened very early in life. So it gave me a boost like nothing else. The second one happened when I published my first research paper. So that was a milestone for me because I had recently turned into an applied researcher and, seeing your name. So someone has actually vetted your ideas, someone you don't know, and you have no chance to influence them outside of what you've written in that paper. So having that published in a good quality journal was a thrill for me. And as for my third milestone, I would say that after having started Choose to Think, there have been, unlike in a regular office environment where you have a very classic appraisal cycle, and so you're going to get feedback regularly. As someone who's an entrepreneur, you get feedback sporadically. Sometimes you ask for it, but sometimes it's a surprise when it comes, and that's the best kind of surprise. Wonderful. So very recently, so these little moments come along, and they're all little milestones for us. One recent incident was someone unsolicited had come and relayed some feedback about how what we are doing to say help people build a reading habit, for instance. That person had heard a friend say this was the best thing he had ever invested in, and they'd used the word invested in, which really thrilled me because that's what we wanted them to see it as. So these were three of the milestones that came to mind, Ashutosh.
Fantastic. So before I move to Choose to Think, one of your second milestone was when you became an applied researcher. Now, help me understand, what does that mean?
Sure. So if you think about the classic scientist, the one with a lab coat and in a closed environment thinking away, that's not what an applied researcher is.
Okay.
And I'm from the field of computer science. So you have at one end you have the engineers who power our IT sector. On the other end, you have core scientists who are really putting together thinking from scratch algorithms, systems that will eventually join and become part of the IT lexicon. Somewhere in middle are the people who tie both of these ends together. They are the people who can understand research, contribute a little bit to it, but also have an eye to the innovation side of it, and other than the invention side of it, which is what does it take to bring this to a larger version, to an industry, to the engineer. So an applied researcher like me would, explore things coming out of a lab, and also, bring it to the world. And, we would kind of be the people in the middle passing the baton on. So, as an applied researcher in the field of natural language processing, which is in the same field as machine learning and AI, it would study how languages could be understood by computers. And my role would be something like, for instance, we built an algorithm to automatically elicit wishes from what people were saying on social media. So I want to say, Ashutosh, I love your podcast. I wish you could get Elon Musk on it. So that would be an example of something that we would
I
procure.
see.
And that's an example of what we do.
Wonderful. So let's come to Choose to Think. Tell me about this venture. What motivated you to start this, and what do you do?
Sure. So Choose to Think is now 7 years old. It happened after I had quit my previous applied research job. And that, I mean, I think Choose to Think is intertwined with what me and my co-founder wanted to do next. And so Choose to Think came because we thought that we were, I think the Indian economy, the world economy was doing pretty well 7-8 years ago, right? So people, I think, took everything for granted. And if you look past at a few generations before, so for example, my father knew only one job. He got in at one end and he was out at 30
Right.
years, and that was the most important thing to them. But by the time someone from my generation came along, there was still, if you were in the IT sector, things were booming. But we also felt that not enough people were seriously taking the question of being relevant in the future. Organizations were good at it, individuals not necessarily. So,
Okay.
and there is a lot of material out there that helps you be more deliberate. Think, we have wonderful books, frameworks, mental models that more people could use, and they could have a better profession, they would have a better career, better life. And there is all this wisdom. So there is this famous quote that says the future is here, it's just not distributed evenly. So what we wanted to, we said we could help was to distribute this a little better than what it was. And we had, so for someone like me to make a switch from a very stable job to entrepreneurship, I'm a first generation entrepreneur. So, all the things that I had read in the past, the people I'd interacted with, gave me that sense of confidence in doing it. And so, what Choose to Think ultimately aims to do is to help people think very deliberately about their future relevance. So, for companies, it could be you're running a hackathon. Why are you running it? What are you getting out of it? Because you have one eye to the future. Similarly, for an individual, if you are considering not your move of tomorrow, but your move of 5 years down the line, what do you do today to make that a much better informed choice? Is the canvas that we have chosen for ourselves.
Okay. Very interesting. So, you just mentioned becoming future relevant. And when I was looking at your website, you've defined 4 categories, which are systematic curiosity, social capital, shape culture, and smart conversations. Help me understand each of these, and if possible, without giving names, give me some examples.
Sure. Yeah. Before I do that, I'll tell you why we came up with those 4 pillars. We felt that, so in some sense, future relevance is like finding a stage to perform, right? So I have the best example, that is you right now. So you are doing something right now. We are doing something that I'm sure you didn't do 10 years ago, or you didn't even know you were going to do in 10 years time.
Yep.
But here you are on something which is considered relevant these days. And you have been through retail, you have been through education. So I looked at people like you and said, what is it that people like Ashutosh and others, we know a lot of such people, what is it that they are doing? How did they find such a stage to perform on? How did they develop the ability to perform on such a stage? And more importantly, how did others think or get that perception that, oh yeah, what they're doing is relevant to me? So now these questions are difficult questions for anyone to answer. There is no playbook. So when we looked at this, we realized that these people are not just curious, but they're systematically curious. What that means is that they know that this is a problem which is important but not urgent. So you don't have to solve it today, but then tomorrow never comes. So what people do is that they protect a slot in the day, let's say for reading, for instance, as a source of curiosity. Some may not like reading; they have smarter conversations. So, looks like these days the best way to have a smart conversation is to invite someone for a podcast episode. Otherwise, everybody is very busy. So, this is a great opportunity. It's a very systematic way of engaging in your curiosity.
Okay.
So, to give you an example that stitches all of these together, a company that we were working with, this is a tech multinational, they had a site in India. And as you know, many of these sites emerged because of a cost alternative to headquarters.
Correct.
But over time, they had talented people here. And how do you retain them? How do you create a sense of engagement? How do you build the next major product, or at least the next big idea to come out of this site? And that is their future relevance, worry. That's what will keep someone up at night, who is worried about the future, not the relevance of today. So they said that they started running an innovation program around patents and hackathons, but they felt more could be done. So what we helped them do was we said, we need to help people be more aware of trends that are happening around them. It is happening very sporadically, and that is an input that they take with themselves when they come into a hackathon or they come into a patent exercise. But you need to do a lot of gardening before that. Sure. And like you do with any garden, you have to plant those seeds very long back. So we've run reading groups for them. We have year-end reflections where they think about what happened. So that's a smart conversation. And there's a huge cultural aspect wherein you say, how do you recognize these people? How do you share their stories with newcomers? And, it's almost like you are building the next cadre of innovators who are going to do this 2 years down the line. So the cultural part is about sharing stories. We have a microsite we set up for them. We have a calendar wherein twice a week we send out interested curated material, sometimes from their field and sometimes from very unrelated fields. You'll have something from sports, you'll have something from food, because innovation is all around us. We are a species that is good at storytelling and at innovation. And so that is what we all brought together in a program. So the core idea is really being deliberate and not leaving it to chance.
Wonderful. So, again, I was so fascinated when I was reading about you and trying to understand. I can be nowhere near your level of understanding in the incredible stuff you're doing. But, I read a phrase and I quote, it says, you love exploring the intersection of design, psychology, behavior, science, and culture. Help me understand this with an example.
So Ashutosh, that's a very interesting question. I've always been interested in multiple fields, and I felt that wherever there are humans involved, there is culture, there is behavior, there is how they respond to technology. And I think increasingly these are interesting issues to focus on when everything is becoming so tech oriented.
Okay.
So to give you an example of this intersection that I found very fascinating was that, like I mentioned, we are interested in helping people be more curious. And one way to do that is to have a systematic reading habit. And in the age of Netflix, I know this is a big uphill challenge to overcome. But what we realized is that people are interested. There is a desire. But the way reading has been sold to people has always meant big books, a feeling of guilt if you don't complete. Those kinds of issues always came in. And so in my reading, I had read about the psychology of habits, how habits are created, what is the cultural norms that come into habits, the social aspect of habits. We rarely form habits as individuals. The environment plays a huge role in this. And this is something I did not know 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So when we designed this offering for ourselves, actually to begin with, because like I said, we want to be systematic. So we had subscribed to 2-3 journals and book summary services, but we weren't really reading them. Though all of us likes to read, we all read different things. But here was the subscription which was just lying unused. So we said, if we were to design a system for ourselves, how should we design a system? So then we realized from the habit literature that this, if you make habits smaller to run, they are more likely to be done. So and if you can attach in a what's called piggybacking, if you can attach a new habit you're trying to create to an existing habit, then you're more likely to do it. So then what we did, we started curating short articles. We said there is nothing wrong about reading an article. You may not be reading a book, but the value, and some books probably should have been just articles or blog posts. And there's a lot of value that you can get in 15 minutes of reading.
Correct.
So that was a lesson that came from the world of psychology. Similarly, for culture, we said that if we do it as a group and we take a commitment pact, we say that if all of us are in a group and if Ashutosh doesn't read in 24 hours, tomorrow's article will not be unlocked. So a little bit of peer pressure, a little bit of, you can almost say a little bit of guilt, a tiny amount of guilt, not a lot. This comes from the world of culture. And ultimately, what platform do you do it? So initially, we chose something like WhatsApp. We said that we're already there. We don't need to create a new app. And technology, I mean that you don't have to always create something new. You can always look at what you already have and refashion that. So we said that we're always on WhatsApp. Why don't we just use that for our group? Today we've moved to another platform called Telegram. Okay. And that is again an evolution on a technology thinking. Yeah. But this was an example of how you can stitch together multiple things. And I'm sure any entrepreneur actually does that because that's the only way you survive and you flourish. You cannot be a single point person.
Very interesting. So I've got one more question before I move to the next segment, which is some personal questions. You're working with so many organizations, so many individuals. You're talking about their future. What are your core values in Choose to Think?
Right. Yeah, I know it's a difficult question because I think how we have tried to look at it is we have tried to look at it bottom up. We've said that what have we done so far, and what are the things that we dislike doing, and that I think has emerged from that has emerged these values, because sometimes you can do an exercise where you define your values and then the challenge is to live it up. Correct. So what we realized, and when we say choose to think, and thanks for pointing out the Q in it. So I'll actually go think. I think exemplifies or encapsulates what we have. So let me start with the Q. The Q is for questions. So we were quizzers. We always liked people who asked a lot of interesting questions. Sometimes fortunately, I was on a group of people who appreciated questions even more than the answers. Okay. And they would say that, what a fascinating way to put a question. So the Q stands for questioning. So I think big source of strength for us has been the ability to ask basic questions. So to give you an example of how this works, some leader earlier this year asked us to just go ahead and reimagine the way they make offers to candidates. So the whole process is over. But what he realized was that they were losing out on an opportunity to wow the person. And there are people have done things like we'll give you a gift, we'll send you a family thank you card. But we said that even the offer letter itself, you could do a lot of interesting things. You could talk about the story of the company, how that company came to be. So we just reimagined the whole thing from first principle simply by asking, why is this here? Whatever was there, why is this line here? And we did that for practically every line. And I'm sure we drove some of the folks on the other end a little mad. But the attitude of questioning is central to what we do. The N is for novelty. So we want to try and bring new, interesting ways of looking at the world. The I is for inquisitiveness. Curiosity is a huge role. If you still survive today, it is because of that. The H is for human, and I think this is a odd thing to kind of bank on today's world. But increasingly, I think people will be the ones who will do well are the people who are working with humans and how to do have that relationship with them. So, and this is not something that is taught to all of us. So being, I think, being human or being able to look at the human side of everything is important. And a T is for being very thoughtful, very deliberate about what we do. So those, I think, are the core values for choosing.
Wonderful. How well enunciated. Thank you. So, Raman, I'm going to move to a few questions for you personally. I think I can take maybe 2, maybe 3 questions. You're getting everyone future ready. You're telling people or helping people understand, what they want to do. But my question to you is, what does success mean to Ramanand?
Right. So I look at success maybe with a lowercase capital S, the first letter. I have grappled with this problem, and what I realized was that success was quite simply being able to get up in the morning and look forward to for that day and say that I'm excited to do something that day. It could be a day of rest, it could be a day of work, it could be a day spent with someone. That I think if I was doing that and I had more such days than not, I would consider myself successful.
Okay.
Because at each stage, as we've progressed, I think you realize that there are different challenges that you want to do. And if when I started off, I also wanted to have a good title. I wanted to be in a good company. I wanted to have a good amount of money coming in. But now that has evolved. So I've just realized that a simple way to answer this question is, am I looking forward to the day or not? And that's good enough for me.
Well said. My next question is that, you're doing such amazing amount of work, with your mind and building an organization. Where do you drive your inspiration from?
Right. So, it's actually very easy to be kind of like an Ekalavya these days, right? You don't have to lose your thumb. You have lots of different Dronacharyas in the world, thanks to the riches of the internet. So whenever I think, I feel a little depressed or down, I remind myself I'm probably living in the greatest time that history could have offered. Right? We have everything at our disposal. What we just need is that desire.
Right.
So I have actually, and other thing that has happened is that I have occasionally met a few celebrities that I used to look up to, or famous people, or I have also seen my personal role models around me as they age or as they go about. Sometimes they can get a little underwhelmed. So what I have taught myself to do is to say that let the inspiration come from their ideas and not from from who they are. That kind of de-risks the disappointment that you sometimes encounter. And sometimes that person is you yourself. So I think, but I would say that of late, a whole source of inspiration comes from places like social media. And I've discovered people. So I'll give you one example. There is an ad man, the head, I think he's the vice president at Ogilvy in the UK, person called Rory Sutherland. Someone I discovered just 2 years ago, thanks to the internet and through a podcast. So here is someone who's I can sense that he is an intersectional kind of figure, in the sense that he takes ideas from biology, from advertising, from psychology, from technology. So currently, because this is the mindset I am in, I'm surrounded by these ideas. So I look up to someone like him as an inspiration. But tomorrow it could be someone else. So I think I'm in a position to be Ekalavya in these days, and very safely so.
Wonderful. As long as you don't have to give your thumb, please become as many times Ekalavya as possible.
True.
Ramanand, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you. I wish you and Choose to Think lots and lots of success. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.